Hello everybody, and welcome back to a Persian Empire, which has just recently, if you remember from last episode, expanded out to capture the Persian Trucial Coast. This is, of course, crucial coast, actually, because we now control this, at least, access into the Persian Gulf. Nice, extra little bit for our defense. We might need to build up a little bit more of a navy to defend it, but that's another issue entirely. Outside of doing that, we also industrialized our economy in a big way. And if we take a look at the budget screen, you can see that we're doing all right, although taxes need to come down. But there are actually two super special things I want to bring to your attention. Firstly, the coast is isolated. This is a big problem. We're incorporating it in, which will help reduce turmoil and give us greater market access. However, without a port, it can't actually do buy or sell orders. And if it can't conduct any buy or sell orders, then any industrial development is a total waste of time. We do need the government administration here, of course, for extra taxation capacity. However, even here, you could argue that really it's about the development tab. We've got the one construction sector here built up. It's time that we get a port here as well. Maybe even a railway across here too. Even though it's a very small territory, it will help with its infrastructure. At the moment, though, there's almost nothing built here. We only have a couple of farms. You know, there are actually very few resources on this peninsula, so I think at the moment we'll just try and get a port to get it connected via infrastructure. Now, if these infrastructural issues and me navigating to a building queue and trying to figure out how to find this port, here we go, to throw it at the front aren't exciting enough for you, let's hit the play button, because there's also a diplomatic play at the moment. The French, the cocky initiator, have decided to take Bahrain, which is, of course, within our newly secured Persian Gulf. Now, we buddied up with the Brits last time to fight around here and remove slavery or something. This time, we're also buddying up with the French. They're kind of our two great power friends across the way, although, as I say that, I can't help but notice this is a little bit of an aggressive move. The Russians were thinking about supporting it, but they're not. If we look at the allegiances, I am here, and I can choose who to protect. The Egyptians are coming in behind Bahrain. Very interesting. Joining the Egyptian side would be a little bit difficult. We, of course, don't actually have a land border with Bahrain. I think in this conflict, we will declare our neutrality, but it's a spicy one. Also, look, they want to conquer Dongola as well. What are they up to? Oh my goodness. They're trying to take a whole swath of land here. Look at all of that. Okay, we will leave them to that, I think, and declare our neutrality. It will not be possible for us to join that diplomatic play later, but I don't want to. Because if they're busy down there, we might be able to focus on doing something else. Like either hoovering up the rest of the Trucial states, let's expel their diplomats and start that declining. Oh man, I'm expelling your diplomats too. We don't like anybody along this coastline. And I'm getting rid of yours as well. I'm just going to go around and destroy everybody's diplomats. Reason being, we will conquer another state eventually moving forward. There are some issues in the market. Most of them seem to have actually resolved themselves by us building that extra port. We were really short, it's not even built, but we were really short of trade goods and trade access. Hopefully, we're building some of our own buildings, and that's helping to reduce that. It looks like I don't have a whole load of crappy import routes left. A few issues around coal, but everything's looking pretty good. We can almost consider lowering our taxes, which will be a great relief to the rising, although increasingly falling radicalism. Oh, that is fantastic to see. We're actually getting this place in pretty tip-top shape. I did, however, leave off last time failing to push through our change in voting laws. We tried to push through for universal suffrage. It wasn't really going to happen for us. So I do need to find another way to liberalize, because we are still working on this path to liberalization, but we're just not quite liberal enough yet to push through changes to our voting. So what we'll do instead, keeping in mind that we have our intelligentsia in power and we're sort of weakening the other parties, is try and push through a law that's liberal but not quite that extreme, just to give them a little bit more support. One big change that we would love to make, actually, is to remove the slave trade. As you can see at the moment, it's providing a lot of support for the landowners, plus 50% strength. We could reduce it down to legacy slavery, that would halve their bonus, or we could completely ban it, removing their ideology entirely, getting rid of all of their support. Either way, it's pretty similar. I reckon we move to completely ban it. Let's free the people on this path to liberalization. The intelligentsia will support it, and also the trade unionists, who currently have almost no clout. Will this cause a revolution? The landowners and the rural folk aren't happy. Now, the rural folk are a fairly strong group. We'll have to watch this. These interest groups are actively trying to overthrow the government. If this gets too high, I will cancel trying to pass this law. Absolutely. It's not worth it that much to me, and I'm happy to change tack. There are also a couple of additional diplomatic plays. Arabia and Zanj are both, at the moment, under... Oh my goodness! There are revolts everywhere. It's revolting. Look at this. They're all over the show. This area is in absolute turmoil, and I'm just actually kind of grateful that it's nothing to do with us. We're going to let the French do what they want to do down there. That's totally fine. And I think also in this other rebellion, we probably don't want to be a part of it. We could step in to try and change some politics, but I'm just going to declare neutrality there as well. Thank you. I'm trying to prevent revolution in my own land. Maybe the banning of slavery outright is a little too aggressive. Let's have just a very quick play with cancelling it and trying to move towards legacy slavery. Now, if we hover over this, we can see that this will it will still radicalize the landowners down 10 to minus 29. This one moves them to minus 39. It could still be too aggressive, but let's try the middle ground of legacy slavery. See if they'll deal with that. If they won't and revolution keeps rising, I'll fall to their demands. But this might just piss them off just a little bit less. So much so that we can actually push it through. We'll see how we go. Let's get some more coal mines put into the building queue because we need a whole load more of those. Our market is actually struggling so much that I think we're going to have to bring in another trade route. Let's get some French coal in here. We love the Frenchies. They're doing us justice. And we need more convoys, which means, you guessed it, folks, I'm going to have to build some more ports and throw them at the front of the queue alongside these coal mines. Alrighty, here are some new ports queued up. They're right down the bottom of the queue, of course. We've got a lot to get through, but I'll chuck 2 at the top to begin with. Yeah, 2 should be enough. Just to try and alleviate some of those demands. Revolution, still threatening, but maybe leveling off. Very good. What we might do is stop suppressing rather the religious group and start suppressing the landowners. Their clout is too much. We have to start pushing these people down. They are hurting all kinds of things, and we need to really reduce them. They're at 21%. However, we are growing as well as the intelligentsia, which is neat. So let's keep growing. We could even try and put some support into the trade unions, who are very happy with us more so than some other groups. We'll see how we go. I'm going to cancel road maintenance here because we don't need that for our... Oh, I tell a lie. We still need road maintenance here. I was just looking across for a few ways that I could save on some authority. The other way, of course, would be to jump into my budget tab and do it that way, but I don't think I want to cut any of these taxes. We might have to research some authority down the line. I mean, obviously, I'd like to cut these taxes to improve the lives of my people, but just can't quite afford to yet, although we could ride this a little lower for a while. Ooh. Radical Sweden breaks away from the Norway-Sweden alliance up to north. Not a lot happening in continental Europe. Seems like the Europeans are hell of a busy making waves over here in Africa. Oceania, yep. Looks like Australia and Britain have divided up New Zealand, except for Wellington, which is still under Maori control. And then over in the Americas, we have the American-Mexican conflict, which actually looks like it could almost be swinging in Mexico's favor. Go them. And Peru-Bolivia as well. Another one of my favorite ones that I might... Ooh, a politician died. Nobody. That I might consider in future. And another state breaks away, Arabia. We will declare our neutrality there. See you, friends. Aha! The landowners are no longer powerful. Very good. We'll have a 100% greater effect on them until they're neutralized. That's just their interest group crate. I think that's fine. Market report just came through as well while I was looking down here, and it looks like actually our markets are doing reasonably well. Prices looking good, coming down, stabilizing. Our economy actually doing really well now that I've got some extra ports online. Let's officially give these people their tax cut back down to medium taxes. Congratulations, everybody. You did it. We could also increase some government wages. This is, as I mentioned in a previous episode, pretty good these days, but we might have to balance it out. We could, of course, also cheekily opt to keep taxes high and raise government wages incredibly, putting a lot more money in the back pockets of these two groups who we currently have in power. That will hopefully allow them to access the goods that they need to secure their standard of living better than the rest, and therefore become stronger, more wealthy, and more powerful in our society. I'm going to try and do that. It's a little bit of a cheese tactic. It would, of course, be better for everybody to reduce these taxes, but for the time being, we'll make a bit of cash just in case a war looms and ride along at that level. Opium, the only good that we're just really not producing enough of at the minute, but boy oh boy can I fix that. As usual, add a few more to the queue. Keep on top of the ports so that we can keep trading and sending it around the world, but also cheat a couple right up to the top and smash them out because they're actually quite quick to produce. And the intelligentsia are now powerful. Very good. They used to be influential. Now they are powerful. So we're seeing a real change, a real shift in powers in our government. Intelligentsia, now finally the most significant political party in the land, or at least interest group in the land. They're actually about to also be the most significant political party. Checking in on the old market tab, and I can see that we're still really short on coal and engines. That's a legacy hangover, of course, from our industrial revolution. We could also probably stop trading our hardwood because this is doing a little bit of a yikes as well. But also, interestingly, coffee. There's a little bit of a taste for coffee in our market. And we can't build any. We could consider importing some. Look at Egyptian Dongola go. Holy cow. It's going to get a little bit messy. The territory is absolutely devastated. Unlike Persia, which is actually looking pretty neat. If I look into a couple of these plays, so the Russians are still siding with them. Obviously, we don't need to do that. Then we have Kalat, who doesn't actually have any ally except for Afghanistan. And I'm guessing Afghanistan is the same in that after we expel their diplomats, yike, and then attempt to conquer them, yeah, same deal. So these two will buddy up. It would be a huge conflict to march straight over them. The only other way, of course, I can move, though, is down toward the Trucial states, who we did look at last time and kind of consider we'll be peace-locked with them for a while. They have some discoverable resources worth considering, but maybe not quite yet. I'm also yet to build any universities. Fairly expensive buildings, using up infrastructure, but adding some research for us, right? Innovation and qualifications. Useful for an increasingly educated population. I think we should, even though they're less industrial and more of a nice to have maybe in comparison to, say, these coal mines, which we really desperately need to keep our trains running, I think we should start to improve our research capacity and also provide more education and employment opportunities as well. So we'll start to do that in a couple of core territories. Oh boy. And legacy slavery, which was our sort of happy middle ground to avoid revolution. Looks like it's going to pass no trouble. We will have to lose some interest group approval from the intelligentsia, but I don't mind at all. We can leverage some of that to push this through. Clippers are becoming very expensive in our shipyards, so I'll also probably try and add a few extra of those. 2 more should probably be enough, but they're a long way off in the queue. So as per, just going to start throwing stuff up to the top and keep on producing. It's actually going pretty well, though, to be honest. Like, these sort of shortages that are coming up and coming down, I mean, they're fairly easy to fix. We could even actually just fix that one temporarily with a trade route. We're paying our dudes a whole load of money and making everybody else pay for it, which is always a great way to be. Actually building up a little bit of gold in our reserves, too. Getting ready for maybe a push to secure what I consider to be the rest of the Persian heartland. These 2 territories here. In particular, the difficult to take and fairly well-resourced Afghanistan. Now, I am completely maxed out on my construction. It makes me think that maybe we need to turn towards the military tech tree a little bit more. Let's grab that general staff again. I'm going to refocus our efforts down on that. We are working to slowly improve our innovation with those extra universities, but it's still going to be a fairly long way off. 16 months until general staff. Honestly, probably a reasonable amount of time to focus on just building up what we've got and passing through some slightly more liberal laws. Come on, baby, 40% dice roll on enacting. No, it didn't work. However, we now are at 55% chance of getting legacy slavery through. This has been a really difficult one, and I'd like to remind you that, I mean, of course, we're doing it for the will of the people. I've also reduced their taxes, by the way. But we're also doing it to try and weaken the landowners group. If we can do that, we can really smash them down. The PBs want to join the Moderate Socialist Party, and the election results are in. The Moderate Socialist Party, of course, did get a lot of the vote. Society for Progress, who we're desperately trying to keep in power, not so much. Yeah, not so much. But I don't care. So if we kick the PBs out, they will then join up with the Moderate Socialist Party in opposition. And that's going to be a bad thing for us. So we actually are, I reckon at the moment, incentivized to keep these two in power together, even though they don't really quite align, because we don't want the PBs going across here to join the moderate socialists. They'll just be too strong otherwise. So we're going to keep this exactly as it is. We're just going to exit reform and pretend like that election didn't happen. Nothing to see here, everybody. Literally nothing to see here. It's all just fine. Go back to your lives. There's our skirmish infantry. Things are looking up. What will this do? This will increase our offense by 30, our defense by 35. Training rate and army power projection up as well, helping our prestige. I would note, by the way, we're now ranked 28th in the world. Pretty decent. Anyway, goods consumption. We're going to eat more ammo, and that's going to put the price up. That's kind of it, really. More officers, less servicemen. All right, good. Let's swap everybody to skirmish infantry. These upgrades will take about a year or so to sort of properly kick in and start working. We should also swap people over to first aid, which looks like is going to start using fabric and opium. So we're going to need more opium. We can do that. Fabric is fine. Give them first aid, and that's actually really good. Now our conscripts and our barracks, our proper battalions, will have better guns, better production methods on their organization, rather, and also first aid kit. How about it? It is going to cause a little bit of difficulty and strain on the economy as we work to upgrade it. So I'll just do a little bit of juggling and up the people's taxes. Just a fraction. Sorry, people. And then maybe also sweep up a couple of lower grade upgrades here. Rifling. Huh? Shell guns. Got this one halfway down, we might as well. Okay, ammunition is an issue. As you can see, the price has just gone through the roof. We're going to need more munitions plants. Any munitions plants? Thanks. Let's get 1, 2, 3 of them down. Should be enough for starters, he says, hoping for the best. We also need more opium, so I'm going to accelerate the opium to the front of the queue. Let's clear out a couple of legacy things that we don't really need, and then also accelerate a couple of munitions plants to the top of the queue. I'll sort of filter through here and just kind of kick out a couple of things that have just moved down in our priorities over time. Get the opium first because it's quick and easy, and then we'll work on the munitions plants. And because they're going to take a while and we want our dudes to have guns straight away, let's get some British bullets up in here. Neat. That should hopefully, now that I unpause, I didn't really need to pause, but now that I've, just to save a little bit of cash, now that I've unpaused, hopefully we should see this price start to decline. We could grab a second trade route in as well to start leveling that up, get some French bullets with our old French mates, and that should see the price go, brrr. Yep, neat. Okay, cool. Stabilizing enough that we can start to get that rolling. 77 days left to reform. Reform? What reform? Everything's fine. It's the Society for Progress, damn it, and everything's fine. Oy vey. Oh, and for the first time ever, paper is actually starting to become an issue again. So we'll pop back. God, it feels like just the beginning of the game. Let's get some extra paper factories in here where the peasants are at. I'm also going to just add a couple of minor expansions to the construction industry. You have to do it with care, but we're doing a lot of constructing. We can probably start to squeeze 1 or 2 extras in without putting too much pressure on our tools and stuff. And if it does put too much pressure on the economy, I'll scale them down. But it looks like that one at least kept us relatively neutral, if not scaled it up. So I might look to do the same. I think a couple of these territories over here. Yeah, take a look at this one. Nothing. Nout. Zip zilch nada. Let's get at one. This territory down here also has no construction capacity, and I think we're in a good enough state where we can afford to get one in each of those. Again, minor impacts, hopefully big upgrades over time. France wishes to enter a trade agreement, a diplomatic pact that eliminates tariffs and bureaucracy between our trade routes. We accept. Trade with France now got a whole lot easier. Whether that actually helps or hinders our economy, we'll have to wait and see. But adding those extra construction sectors has temporarily put a little bit of pressure on. I'm going to use that pressure. Hey-oh! Because we've got a big gold reserve. We can burn through it for a little while. We have also got legacy slavery. Yay! Kind of, I guess. It's worth celebrating. I'm not really sure, but... but either way, the landowners don't like it. But you know what? That's fine. It's a push towards liberalization, and we'll allow it. Having a look back into our laws, I can't help but wonder if we want to perhaps find another relatively easy shift. Becoming a parliamentary republic is a big one. It would, of course, grab the approval of the people who we really like, except for the PBs. They would really hate it alongside their land-owning and religious counterparts. It would be really difficult, and we can't push that through at the moment, so we'll have to go for something a little bit safer and easier. Either way, though, you can see that any of these liberal reforms are bound to annoy some people. We could look to initiate migration controls, but that doesn't really support the groups that we like. As you can see, we're in a little bit of a difficult place. However, if you remember our goal from last time, wealth voting, now, as you can see, a little bit more achievable. The landowners won't strictly revolt against us. They're weaker. We'll keep the industrialists on side enough. Let's give it a go. 23% chance. Could cause revolution and revolt. I'll monitor it closely. And by scaling back some construction sectors in areas that I'm avoiding, I've managed to bring some balance to the balance some balance to the balance books. Yep, I have. You can see the construction costs down about 5k. That's going to keep us cruising along just good enough. And our general, hello general, interest group, religious, he's gone. Hey buddy, you're fired. What we could have a play around with here is subsidizing these ammunitions plants to get them online. They need explosives and lead, and they can turn it into ammunition. Now we don't have any of these, so we're going to need more chemical plants. And then we're going to probably need to change their production as well. Probably shouldn't build one there. That looks kind of terrible, to be honest. But these other ones look all right. We're going to need to probably shift their production out of what I'm imagining is civilian and shift it more towards making explosives. Let's have a look. So artificial fertilizers can become improved fertilizers. That seems like a good idea. And then on the chemical plant side, we can consume coal and sulfur to make more explosives. But there aren't enough qualifications to fully staff the chemical labs either. So we're going to need to try and bolster up more engineers by improving literacy and wealth. Okay, this is going to be a little bit of a difficult thing for us to just quickly snap into place. What I would suggest we do is shift slightly our processes and then work on improving the qualifications of our population in these areas as well. To do that, I can stay here just to make sure that I'm building it in the right place. Head to my urban sector, maybe improve universities as well, right? They can churn through a little bit of extra paper. That's totally fine. And we'll get some extra ones in you. Get 5 universities across the board. This will sweep through and provide a whole load of educational opportunities to our people, and then we'll get them working in chemical plants. So I guess for the time being, I'll scrap some of these planned constructions that we'd planned a long time ago and maybe don't necessarily need to build right now. We'll finish this munitions plant because that's done in 2 weeks, and then we'll spam a whole load of universities. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Right to the top of the list. Lace in some chemical plants as well, I think. Yeah, I love it. All right, let's get to work on educating engineers to get explosives and hopefully a superior army. For the time being, we need to get these munitions online. So let's have a look at lead. We're going to need to queue up some lead mines as well. They'll be very quick to build and could almost be worth building before the nerds get online. So we'll chuck those up. That'll fill the lead shortage, and then I just need to focus on explosives and engines. Explosives, we know they're a way off. Let's trade with the French because it costs us no bureaucracy. Engines as well. Can't get them from France. Grab some British engines instead. Oh my freaking god. Pause the phone. The year is 1875. And the Persian Empire just passed census suffrage. That's reduced our authority, of course. Less authoritarian of a state. Plus 30 political strength to our literate population. So where we're educating people matters. Plus 15 wealth threshold for voting. A little bit of extra legitimacy, and we can also move towards new rights. Crucially, though, the intelligentsia and the trade unionists who are still marginalized might need to try and boost them up, maybe. Are gaining in support. Could form a new government out of them. I'm going to bolster the very loyal trade unionists. A free government reform is waiting after another election, and I think we could actually boot out the PBs now. They may still want to join the moderate Socialist Party, an increasingly weak party. Let's reform the government. Let's have a play and see what happens if we put the armed forces into power. We could also, of course, change their wages a little bit to add a little bit more clout behind them, so we'll do that as well. With that, what I'd like to do is turn our national militia into a professional army. Gonna be pretty hard. Trade unionists gonna hate it. Not many people really even like it. It unlocks the ability for me to do it, but there's very little support behind. Monarchy, we could look to move away from it. Again, this will see huge radicalism though, so we're not quite ready for that. Stuff it, dude. We're governing alone. It's a society for progress, and we're just going to leave them in power by themselves at the minute. It gives us very few options to change on our laws, so this might be a less important phase in our legal change. However, I would like to up our institutional power, intelligentsia, political strength. Let's shift the education system up to nearly its max level, and I reckon let's also shift this up. This will reduce radicals from standard of living decreases and turmoil, helping us to expand. Education, of course, helping us to get some nerds to build explosives. Neat. And we'll see if we can squeeze through propertied women, moving away from legal guardianship. A slightly liberal reform. It will help the groups that we're interested in, but it may cause the ones that we don't like to really dislike us. Yep, revolution is brewing. Portugal would like a defensive pact. That's a hard no from me. I don't even know who you are. What? You deal with your own Frenchy problems. And it looks like, yeah, that law is going to be too steep for us to pass. The threat of revolution scares me. Dynamite would actually be really key for us, wouldn't it? Unlocks dynamite for coal mines and iron. This will let us use this outside of our military use cases and in more civilian use cases, helping bolster our economy even further. And it's a pretty easy upgrade because it was basically already done for me. Oh, and up to north, German Federation has declared war with the Russians. Could be an opportunity for us to move on them, but I think they are just in a completely different ball game. We could declare a world war, but that seems way out of question. What I'm actually doing at the minute is trying to build up a little bit of a reserve, keep my taxes high. I'm going to use trade routes to try and pick up any deficits that we're facing at the moment. Aside from opium, I refuse to trade for that. We are an opium-producing country, and by God, will I produce it? I'm going to get another 3 mines up the top of the queue ahead of these universities and government administrations. There we go. Pretty good balance. Our economy's doing really well, and I'm very happy with Persia right now. Hey, look! I forgot we can build barracks here! Oh my gosh! This territory does have use after all! I know that I just talked about how great it is to expand our economy and how I'm building all these things and it's all wonderful and kind and whatever. But maybe I kind of want to push these barracks to the front of the queue. This is the first time we've been able to expand our barracks in a long time. thus super cheap to build. And seeing as we've got this territory, which, as I talked about in the last episode, doesn't actually have a massive amount of potential in comparison to the rest. We could get a tobacco plantation, a livestock ranch, I don't know, a shipyard, I guess. No, it doesn't have a lot, but we have some stuff here. It probably doesn't need that construction sector. I'm going to clear that out now that it's got all of its barracks here. And we'll just leave this floating along as it is, as a tiny little coastline supplying us with a whole load of troops, potentially. We will need a new admiral here as well, so let's retire that landowner. We'll need to recruit one. It'll be a little bit difficult to use the troops, but I like having them here for power projection, goods consumption, jobs, all sorts of stuff. We're building up our reserves plentiful. I'm not going to slash taxes, because our path to liberalism is complete! We did it, folks. We freaking did it. We've liberalized Persia. Are we a parliamentary republic? No. But we've freaking done it. Let's go in line with the radicalism. Other political leaders would be wise to follow this trend. And that looks like it's added some additional journal entries, these like massive overarching goals. And we could look to continue to push our freedom. Freedom of thought, freedom of trade, booming industries is kind of one that I'm working on in the background as well. We've got loads of good stuff going on. It's great to see. If you ignore the absolutely wild balance graph, our economy isn't looking terrible at the moment. We're still subsidizing the the arms industry, though. I've just realized. And because I'm playing on 5 speed, it's a lot. It's a lot. Although I guess it's not terrible. It's only £800 a week. We're going to stop subsidizing this, though. I don't think we need to do that anymore. Whoa, and just like that, employment, people are like, see ya! Oh my goodness. We were the only thing propping up this stupid-ass industry. Oh, but the people will return. Sort of. And it's slightly productive. I think this will actually be okay. The price for these goods is fair in comparison to base price, actually a little low, probably because we've been subsidizing it so much. Let's stop doing that and move swiftly along. Okay, if we have a look through this nice list of all the different things that we could pass, it is actually a push for a presidential or parliamentary republic that is the most significant thing, except we could remove the Home Affairs institution. This would help our trade unionists and intelligentsia a lot. It would therefore be a good political move for us to help these groups gain their approval and endorsement. The downside is, though, is that we would lose all of our conscripts, so the way that we're playing this game would shift quite a bit. We could also look to get rid of censorship. This would reduce our impact to suppress and bolster groups, but would actually be a safer move. And then finally, we could move back to propertied women or ban slavery, alternatively. Banning slavery will radicalize the landowners, but we've already made good progress on them, so that could be a next step. And then I think the other one that I'd consider right now, because it's relatively minor, is the right of assembly. This won't actually radicalize anybody, and will seek to boost up the trade unionists. So let's do that. Let's try and work on enacting a right of assembly. It's going to take a long time because we're not very legitimate. But we're working on it, okay? We're trying to bring up a partner for this political party, someone else that they can pull into the Society of Progress to get more power and backing behind them. And in the meantime, I guess we'll use what little authority we have to keep boosting up these trade unionists. Law changes, we're working on them, which is great. We can't really do much else at the minute, though. We do have one state in turmoil here, our central state. Why? Tax waste, migration attraction. Not a pretty face, wasting a lot of tax. Yeah, you are not a very pretty place, are you? Let's cut your construction sector in half, for starters. In fact, let's slash this right down. We don't need a massive construction sector here. We're not doing nout. Government administration is maybe a little bit weak here. Even then, I mean, it's not terrible. I think this place is probably okay. Let's build it a university so that we can at least educate it eventually. Great Britain wishes to enter a trade agreement with us. Now, this is important because this sort of finalizes our second alliance, or at least, starts to work towards it. The Brits will now free up some bureaucracy and trade capacity with us, slowly bringing our two nations closer together. The liberal Persian Empire with France and Britain. Look at us go. So we have this territory, which means we have an interest in all of this area. I could reassign my interest maybe onto this part of the Ottoman Empire as well, just in case we want to move there instead of the Russians. That's fine. We definitely don't want to release any of our subjects. And apart from that, everything's looking pretty cruisy. We have an election in 71 days, now 60 days, because I'm on 5 speed, so this puppy is going to fly. And take a look at this. For the first time in our history, the Society for Progress will actually legitimately win an election. Up until now, I've either mistakenly thought that they've won it because their name has appeared at the top, yikes from me, or they've just flat out lost, but we've just kept them in power. Well, not this time. With some 1.2 million votes at 58%, it looks like the Society for Progress with a week left to go. It's a very long period. I guess it was just a polling period rather than the actual election itself. Bam, we did it. 58.5% of the vote. Hallelujah. This will help our legitimacy slowly but surely because we're getting more support and therefore becoming a more legitimate government. We now completely outrank the moderate Socialist Party, so they're nothing. And now we just need a friend. And you'll notice that every time I try to add someone in, it lowers our legitimacy because these groups either don't align with us very well, they don't have a lot of power behind them. I don't think we need a friend. I think we're just going to stay as we are, 30% of the vote. The one ruling party. All of this trade, though, is putting a lot of pressure on my ports, so I've just tried to expand out an extra 3 into our market. Our building queue, as you've seen throughout this entire series, is just full all the damn time. But we're making gains. We've got our universities online, so we're educating our people. We're making an insane amount of money now. I can probably increase the people's standard of living and still get away with higher wages in the government. Yes, I can. And we've got a huge surplus. This is great. Our construction sector now more efficient than ever as well, thanks to new technology. And we also have the right of assembly. Neat. Trade unionists endorse the recent change from censorship up 10. The right of assembly. Don't say I don't do anything for you, liberals. I saw a couple of funny comments on an older video that I was just building a fake liberal government because really there's just this nasty sort of opposite and also authoritarianism behind this one. And I think you're right. That is exactly what's happening. Could we bring in a labor movement to help also bolster that new interest group? I think we could. Other things to consider, though, maybe our construction sector with steel framing, infrastructure from population. Yeah, let's get that in. I like that. 5 years? Oh, maybe we'll just get Central Archives instead, actually. It's only 20 months for Central Archives. It's only weeks for pharmaceuticals. Let's pick up some cheaper ones, because I didn't quite realize just how big that jump is. But actually, now that I look at it, it kind of makes sense, because it's like 2 jumps. There's just nothing in the middle. Okay, next up on the old political agenda. Presidential Republic. Still a possibility. Not quite there yet, though. We're going to need another friend. Guaranteed liberties. Honestly, not mad at this. This will, however, radicalize 2 groups. So maybe we'll stay clear of that. In fact, all of these changes are set to radicalize a lot of groups, except banning of slavery will only radicalize the landowners. Let's see what we can do. Again, it's going to be a difficult one, but I might try and push it through. And if the threat to revolution becomes too much, I'll chicken out like the coward that I am. I'm going to have to stop bolstering the trade unionists and instead activate some violent suppression, I think, on this territory. It's just under a little bit of turmoil at the minute, and I really don't like that. So what we're going to do is decrease the penalties of that turmoil by 50%. It's also left me with a little bit of extra authority that we could maybe bring in an extra tax, $5,000 off luxury clothes or furniture. Yup. Big win. Big win. We're burning through our reserves a little bit at the moment just to keep up our construction and aggressive wage package for the government group. You could probably slide that down, to be fair, and just float along on about level. It doesn't actually lose any benefits with them, so for the time being, I think that's fine. You'll see we still have a stupid amount of subsistence farming going on here. I mean, it's insane. Like, there's just so much. So obviously there's still a very strong need to improve a whole lot of our plantations as well. We could start to use the railway to transport some key goods. That will help a little bit, at least, in the supply of some of them. Also, expanding out our coal production's never going to be a bad thing while we continue to import that from the Brits. I think I should probably keep an eye on this sector here as well. Let's give them harvesting tools on the rice farms. Likewise on the wheat farms. Jeez, they're just going to be so thrilled. Sir, we can use tools? Yes. Fantastic. And there's a revolution brewing. Equally fantastic. They do not like the fact that we're trying to ban slavery. One option would be to just take them on. Say, actually, you know what? Have your stupid ass revolution. We'll fight you. Difficult, of course, for the country. So I might wait and see what happens on this. Oh, it's just gone away, actually. They just don't care. They literally don't care. I did nothing, but that's great. It's, of course, to do with them falling in popularity and us rising, the shifting of jobs and politics. And also, their support constantly falling. It looks like they're just on the cusp of revolting against me. Luristan is suffering a little bit from infrastructure. Luckily, now that we have the railroads, that, my friends, is a fairly easy fix. Some of these buildings are struggling quite a bit in this territory, and it will probably be that infrastructure. I didn't realize they didn't have a railway at all. That's my bad. I wanted everywhere to at least have one. So, you know what? I'm really sorry, team. Let me put you at the front of my queue. And in 26 weeks, you will have a railway. For the time being, we'll cancel the violent suppression there and give this territory road maintenance. That will temporarily increase its infrastructure and ensure that the trade and the good times can keep flowing. We're really still short on paper as well. Let's get some paper production down in these coastal territories, I reckon. And likewise with the rest of that crap, except paper's much quicker to build. I'll start to throw a little bit to the top of the queue as well. And with that production cranking away, with the threat of revolution seemingly capping out at about 50% and us moving towards banning slavery, taking even more power away from the landowners, and trying to bolster up the trade unionists, I think we're getting ready for maybe our final phase, potentially the final push. Now, I don't mind how long this Let's Play or run goes for, it is kind of up to you. But also, there are lots of other countries I'd like to try and play, so it's going to be a difficult balance. Of course, Victoria 3 doesn't have an official end cap, although the game does get pretty laggy toward the late game, but it doesn't have an end cap, so for us it's a little bit difficult to decide when to end it. Where I'm going with this long-winded ramble is I'd like your feedback. Let me know below, especially if you've watched it this far through. You probably are fairly invested in the series. How would you like me to finish this? What would you like my next move to be? If I can take your feedback in time, I'll absolutely enact it. My thinking is that we should either build up our military a bit more and try and take this greater Persian region, i.e. mainly these two territories, move into a more wider global conflict to try and throw our support behind a different cause, or a different goal. Either way, let me know. At the moment, I'm super happy with the Persian economy and the greater Persian Gulf control that we've built. I think we're a fairly formidable nation. Until next time, everybody, I will see you then. Take care and bye-bye.